Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be making everything bread. I found this recipe on the King Arthur website. This bread is soft and chewy and absolutely delicious. The advantages of making this bread is that you can do it in a day. It's super easy. It truly is a no-knead bread. You mix it, you let it sit, you shape it, and you bake it. That's it. It's the easiest bread that I have found, and it is really, really delicious. If you haven't watched any of the King Arthur bread baking videos, I highly recommend them. They have a host named Martin that is amazing. I have a confession. I have just a little bit of a crush on Martin. So Martin, if you're watching, call me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know you're going to enjoy the bread. The recipe couldn't be any easier. I'm telling you, I'm so happy to have found this because I normally make a lot of sourdoughs and they are very time consuming. This bread recipe is a mix it and forget it type deal, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. The first thing you need to do is measure out your flour, and I'm using, of course, the King Arthur bread flour, and you need 660 grams. I find weighing my ingredients to be a lot more accurate than measuring them in measuring cups. If you don't have a scale, a cooking scale or a food scale, I would definitely invest in one because it is invaluable when it comes to bread baking. 12 grams or 2 teaspoons of salt, a half a teaspoon of yeast, 18 grams or 2 tablespoons of everything bagel flavoring. I like to mix my dry ingredients before I add my wet just because I think that helps ensure that things are mixed evenly and more thoroughly. This bread doesn't take a whole lot of mixing, so it's a kind of, like I said before, a fix it and forget it recipe. All right, I've mixed my dry ingredients together. Make sure that everything is distributed evenly. And now I'll add my wet ingredients. It's 510 grams of water and 2 tablespoons or 25 grams of olive oil. Now you're going to mix this up, and it's going to create a very shaggy dough. All right, once I get it started pretty well, I like to then go in with a dough scraper and really dig down in there and get everything mixed together well. All right. Scraping down my sides and getting everything incorporated very well. Don't forget to dig down to the bottom and get those dry bits on the bottom. This is a no-knead recipe. You're not going to be getting back in this again after this initial mix. So make sure everything is mixed together very well. Okay. So I've got my dough mixed together. Now we just cover it. You can use plastic wrap. I like to use my shower caps, but I found this set of mixing bowls. They're Pyrex that come with plastic lids, and I'm telling you, I am crazy about this set because it makes bread baking and keeping your dough covered so much easier. So now we just let it sit and rest for 8 to 12 hours. Okay, so my dough is just about ready. It has been about 9 hours. I'm going to be cutting it short. I'm not going to go to the full 12 hours for a couple of reasons. I live in Florida and it is June, almost July, and pretty warm. So my yeast is more active than it might be if you were in a colder climate. Your dough is going to be put into a Dutch oven, and the recipe recommends coating your Dutch oven with some oil. So I'm going to put some olive oil in here and just lightly coat the bottom and sides. This is similar to a sourdough in that we're using the Dutch oven, but unlike the sourdough, we are not going to be preheating the Dutch oven. So that's something that's just a little bit different too. I think I'm going to like this particular recipe if for no other reason than putting my oven on in the summertime is torture. So my air conditioner works overtime when I try to do any bread baking during the summer. So this might be a really nice way to get some bread made. This actually goes into a cold oven. Okay, I think I might have been a little too generous with that oil. I'm going to sop some of it up here. And then the recipe also recommends putting a parchment circle down in the bottom of your pan too, so that your bread doesn't stick. Okay, so my pot is prepared. Now I'm going to be turning my dough out onto my countertop, and I'm going to lightly flour it first. Okay, it's a pretty sticky dough, so I'm going to flour the top. And I'm going to put a little extra along the edges here and then try to work it down with my dough scraper. Because it is definitely a sticky dough. Okay, so I'm going to turn it out onto my floured surface. And I want my sticky side up. Now my sticky side, I'm going to be bringing it in towards the center to make a ball. Just going to gather around my dough and turn it into a ball. Okay, then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do a little bit of a pre-shape. Just kind of round my dough out. And I'm going to put it into my prepared Dutch oven with the sticky side or seam side down. Okay, now I'll cover it. We're going to let it rise in the Dutch oven for 2 hours now. My dough is ready to bake. I'm going to just lightly spritz it with some water if my dough is not feeling sticky on top, because I want my everything bagel seasoning to stick. Now I'm just going to sprinkle it generously all over the top. And then I'm going to score the top by cutting it with some scissors. We're going to be putting it into a cool oven, turning the oven on to 450 degrees and letting our bread bake for 50 minutes. And I'll put it on a wire rack to cool. I'll show you how soft and chewy this is. It's like an Italian bread texture, and it has a really great taste. I'll tell you what, guys, this might have just converted me from all that sourdough baking. It is so good. It's guaranteed to be a hit.